Hi, I'm Dominic Longo, the founder of Flourishing Gaze and the author of Queer Flourishing. I wrote Queer Flourishing because I really found so few resources for personal growth and development for LGBTQ adults. There's some stuff about coming out, there's some resources to help young people, children, or teenagers, but LGBTQ adults who have come out, who are just wanting to grow as leaders and as human beings, we really have almost nothing to go to. So I wrote this book to be a field guide for that journey of becoming ourselves more fully. Well, flourishing is a word that has long been of real importance to me personally. It's kind of what I want for myself and every other being in the world. And as I've gotten into this work of coaching and leadership development, I found that growing as a human being, learning, expanding is actually vital to our flourishing. There's more to flourishing, of course, than to growing, learning, and developing, but it is a crucial component. So, flourishing is about being fully alive. It's about vitality and joy, as well as openness to the maybe more difficult aspects of life, including grief and anger and fear. All of that is part of flourishing. It's all knowing and accessing the fullness of who we are. Now, what's the queer part about that? Well, first of all, clearly queer refers to LGBTQ folks whose gender or sexual orientation is not heteronormative. Yet queer is more than just about sexual orientation or gender. I often talk about the weird and the wonderful of all of us. I think part of becoming ourselves more fully is embracing what's quirky, what's unusual, what's unique about you and about me, and recognizing that the wonderful aspect of being ourselves is often off the norm, that queer, that strange, that unusual aspects of ourselves. So queer flourishing truly is for everyone. And even LGBTQ people have plenty to uncover and embrace of the sort of weird and wonderful aspects of themselves. So this book, Queer Flourishing, is for really any adult who is looking to do some reflection, some introspection, in order to grow in self-awareness, in freedom to more fully become themselves. Honestly, it's not a short read. It's a meaty book, yet with lots of questions posed to the reader before and after most every section. There's a few questions that prompt some reflection about how does this relate to you. I've actually told a lot of my own story of growing as a person to just model the kind of looking into ourselves that we sort of need to do in order to grow. Uh, I imagine that my readers will often be in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. It's not written for the youngest set of readers. It's more for mature folks who have sorted out some parts of who they are and are very much on that journey still. The experience of reading Queer Flourishing, I believe, will be unforgettable and have an irreversible effect of at least self-awareness. My goal has been to help a reader see and not be able to unsee aspects of how they became who they are and what might be possible for their becoming. It's an invitation. Queer Flourishing is an invitation to stepping into something more. So, if you're complacent or you want to be complacent, if you're really wanting to stay in your status quo and not change anything about the life you're living or the person that you are, maybe it's not the right time to read this book. I expect that if you read it, and really especially take to heart those reflection questions posed to you, you're going to be a little bit different as you go through this. I think that this book is really unique because, first of all, it's grounded in the research on adult human development. And I've brought really queer eyes to that research. I believe for the first time, I know of no other resource that truly engages with what researchers have found about the sort of increasing complexity of human beings as they grow and develop from a specifically LGBTQ perspective. As a result, again, there's great resources out there to encourage people to embrace their queerness, their gayness, and come out. That's fantastic, and that's of course an important developmental experience for any queer person. But there is so much more to growing as a human being for everyone, for LGBTQ folks as for straight folks, beyond coming out. In fact, I almost called this book "Queer Flourishing Beyond Coming Out" because there's so much more available. Um, we're at a particular moment in history where being gay, bi, queer, trans is more and more okay in more and more parts of the world. So more and more of us are living professional lives out and proud. More and more of us are marrying, having children in queer families. And so the journey of professional development, leadership development, just overall personal flourishing is more relevant than ever. 20 years ago, shame and just the trial and tribulation of coming out, that was the most important kind of personal development crucible for any LGBTQ person in general. Well, today, there's much more thanks to the advances that we've made in culture to become part of it and to be out. The more broad questions of growing in our capacity for complexity, both within ourselves and out there in the world, growing in our capacity to lead effectively. These are more relevant to us, and there are distinctive challenges and resources in the kind of queer experience that we need to recognize in order to grow into our full potential as leaders and human beings. If leaders could take away one lesson from my book, I would say look within. Try to adopt multiple perspectives to see what has become a really familiar set of patterns within yourself. The tendency is for us to say, well, that's just who I am. That's my personality. That's my background. And of course, it's good to be who you are. And yet, if we give ourselves the freedom to wonder, what else might I be? Or how else was I before this or that experience that kind of taught me to hold back here or there? There's more available, I believe, as options for how to show up in the world, in your relationships, at work, even in your inner experience of, just handling your own emotions. I mean, that's a challenge in a way for all of us in different ways. So what do we put down? What do we let come up? This is I think the most important thing for us to pay attention to in a new way. So I encourage you, go out and order Queer Flourishing. Bring it home, spend some time with it. Maybe get a little group of friends or colleagues to read together. It's with those reflection questions really made for exchange and to prompt new conversations. Please go out and find access to greater flourishing for yourself now through this book.